and welcome to the Sleuth booth, and I hope you guys have had a chance to watch episode 1 or part 1 of this story that I'm going to be catching up on today, which is the Watcher house story. To recap on the last episode, so we've got the family, the Broadus family. They have purchased a nice home, 657 Boulevard, and in New Jersey. This is meant to be a really nice neighbourhood. They're really excited about the house. They're having renovations done before they move in, and they started to receive some letters. Now these letters were, they're really bizarre. They're written in a real bizarre way, almost like an old English, I don't know, medieval, whatever type style. Calls himself the Watcher, knows their names, knows like little details that give the impression that this person is always close to the home or always watching the home. So it's been a weird and disturbing start to their move, and they've not quite moved in yet. They're having all these renovations. They've got the police involved, and the police are looking at the family known as the Langfords. Reason being, the Langfords have been where they are. They're neighbouring right next to the Broaduses, and they would have perfect view of the property that people on the general street wouldn't see, and they would also be able to overhear stuff. So they'd be able to overhear what the kids' names are, conversations that they've had in their yard with contractors. So they were looking pretty suspect. Plus, the Watcher stated in one of his letters that he's been watching for 2 decades, and his father was watching in the 1960s, and the Langfords have been in the area since the 60s, and they're the only family that have. I believe the mother is really old, and I believe the 3 boys live with them. So we're going to catch up from where we left off, where they're starting to look at the Langfords. So the Broaduses also turned to several experts. They employed a private investigator who staked out the neighbourhood and ran background checks on the Langfords, but didn't find anything noteworthy. Derek reached out to former FBI agent who served as an inspiration for Clarice Starling in The Silence of the Lambs. They were on a high school board of trustees together, and they also hired Robert Lennon, another former FBI agent, to conduct a threat assessment. Lennon recognised several old-fashioned ticks in the letters that pointed to an older writer. The envelope was addressed to M.M. Broadus. The salutations included the day's weather, warm and humid, sunny and cool for a summer day, and the sentence had double spaces between them. The letters had a certain literacy panache, which suggested a ferocious reader, and a surprising lack of profanity given the level of anger, which Lennon thought meant a less macho writer. Maybe, he wondered, the Watcher had seen The Watcher, starring Keanu Reeves, as a serial killer who stalks the detective trying to catch him. See, when I heard The Watcher, I kept thinking of the computer game The Witcher. That's what made me think maybe it's a teenager, because there's a game called The Witcher, and I thought maybe someone's taken that. But again, it didn't make sense. Like, the style of writing didn't make sense, and what this person was trying to achieve is still a little bit obscured, because we don't know what the reasons or the motives behind it. Well, this person just telling us that it's their job to watch them and write these weird letters. Lennon didn't think the Watcher was likely to act on the threats, but the letters had enough typos and errors to imply a certain erraticism. The first letter was dated Tuesday, June 4th, but that day was a Wednesday. There was also a seething anger directed at the wealthy in particular. The watcher was upset by new money moving into town. Are you one of those Hoboken transplants who are ruining Westfield? And by the Broaddus's relatively modest renovations, the house is crying from all of the pain. This is what the watcher wrote. The house is crying from all of the pain it is going through. You have changed it and made it so fancy. You are stealing its history. It cries for the past and what used to be in the time when I roamed its halls. The 1960s were a good time for 657 Boulevard, when I ran from room to room imagining a life with the rich occupants there. The house was full of life and young blood. Then it got old, and so did my father, but he kept watching until the day he died, and now I watch and wait for the day when the young blood will be mine again. See, like, I wouldn't even know, like, I think by the third line, I'm thinking to myself, what is this person talking about? Like, what are you talking about? I mean, but I can see clearly why they've looked at that and said, like, they don't, this is a person don't like when people throw money at stuff and update it and change it. Like, they're very traditionalized and they want everything to be the same forever. And as we know through history, we just can't do that. It's good to have, like, you know, ancient history that's sort of preserved and taught about, but, you know, this is just an old house. I mean, it was built in 1905. Lennon recommended looking for former housekeepers or their descendants. Perhaps the watcher was jealous that the Broadduses had bought a home that the writer couldn't afford. Possibly. But then again, what would be the whole point of all of this? But the focus remained on the Langfords. In cooperation with Westfield Police, the Broadduses sent a letter to the Langfords announcing plans to tear down the house, hoping to prompt a response. Nothing happened. Detective Lugo brought Michael Langford in for a second interview, but got nowhere, and his sister, Abby, accused the police of harassing their family. Eventually, the Broadduses hired Lee Levitt, a lawyer who met with several members of the Langford family as well as their attorney to show them the letters, along with photos explaining how their home was one of the few vantage points from which the easel could be seen. The meeting grew tense, Levitt told me, and the Langfords insisted Michael was innocent. One night, Derek had a dream in which he confronted Peggy, the eldest Langford, and demanded she build an 8-foot fence between the properties. I mean, if you're innocent, that's the first, you know, if you are innocent and you're getting all of this and people saying, like, they're adamant it's you, and you are innocent, you'd be like, yeah, fuck it, just put fence around, you know, get everything delivered, screw them out there. It just, I mean, it's annoying. Just these pathetic little letters are almost destroying a whole entire street. Maria was having other kinds of dreams. One night she woke up to an especially vivid one about a man who lived nearby. He was wearing these boots and carrying a pitchfork and calling to the kids, and I couldn't get to them in time, Maria said. She thought almost anyone could be the watcher, which made daily life feel like navigating a labyrinth of threats. She probed the faces of shoppers at Trader Joe's to see if they looked strangely at her kids and spent hours Googling anyone who seemed suspicious. See, this is the thing as well, like I said before in the last video. It's in this era, you know, it's 2014, it's in pretty much in this era. And, you know, finding out enough information to send letters to someone and freak them out is not difficult these days. I mean, people put everything on social media. They shouldn't, and I'm guilty too, but they just do. So it's not difficult to find out that person's, this is her surname, that's her middle name, this is her kid, she's married to him, this is her mum. You know, this is their birthday. You know, it's not hard. There were reasons to consider other suspects. For one thing, the police spoke to Michael before the second letter was sent, which would make sending two more especially reckless. The Broaduses say that Lugo told them they wouldn't receive any more letters after he spoke to Michael. Then there was the rest of the neighbourhood to consider. The private investigator found 2 child sex offenders within a few blocks. Bill Woodward, the Broaduses' house painter, had also noticed something strange. The couple behind 657 Boulevard kept a pair of lawn chairs strangely close to the Broaduses' property. One day I was looking out of the window and I saw this older guy sitting in one of the chairs, the Woodward told me. He wasn't facing his house, he was facing the Broaduses. See, so it's obviously, you know, the street behind, you know, there'll be the people living on the next street. Or unless the street bends round. I'm not sure. I've not looked at the geographics, but so it's the property behind. So I'm guessing they would be coming up to they would be sitting the other side of the rear fence of the property. But by the end of 2014, the investigation had stalled. Well, this is the thing. This is where I'd hate to be a police officer, because this is clearly an alarming situation. But so far, all you've got is just some letters, no motive. You've got possible motives, but you don't know the motive. You have no suspect. Everyone's a suspect, but you have no solid suspect. Everyone seems to, like, you know, either have an alibi or there's not enough to put them behind these letters. And then, but nothing's actually happened other than these letters. The watcher had left no digital trail, no fingerprints, and no way to place someone at the scene of the crime that could have been hatched from pretty much any mailbox in northern New Jersey. I mean, I think it's obvious this person's close proximity. I think we can rule out northern New Jersey. I think we can narrow it down to at least a 1 or 2 mile radius. I mean, even 2 miles to me seems too far. I mean, it could be. I mean, this person could be travelling every day. We don't know, but I doubt it. This person's close. This person's always on top of them. I feel like this person just has a really unique vantage point where they can see and hear everything discreetly. The letters could be read closely for possible clues or dismissed as the nonsensical ramblings of a sociopath. It was like trying to find a needle in a haystack, said Scott Cross, who helped investigate the case for the Union County Prosecutor's Office. In December, the Westfield police told the Broaduses they had run out of option. Derek showed the letters to his priest, who agreed to bless the house. I mean, I don't think I would have jumped to paranormal yet, but I mean, the police officers are obviously thinking, right, this could just be some random sociopath. But the more you find it so difficult, the police officer, in 2014, finding it difficult to trace where a letter has come from, or a bunch of letters have come from, you can't even pin a suspect for longer than 1 interview, 2 interviews. So if this person's just on a wind up, they're going for a lot of effort to make sure this wind up stays secret, like a hidden legend or something. Because, you know, if it was just some idiot being an arsehole, you would have caught them by now. They would have slipped up somewhere, because they're not trying hard enough. They're just like, you know, they're just doing their thing. Where this person is covering their tracks. Like, they might not have started out to get dangerous with this. They might have thought that whoever's doing it. But the more they're getting away with it, the more dangerous it's going to get, because they're going to think, okay, how much further can I go? So they're getting a priest to bless the house. I mean, I don't know. Has anything actually weird gone in the house? Just these letters. They're stamped, obviously. They must be stamped. The renovations to 657 Boulevard, including a new alarm system, were finished within a few months. See, that's obvious. You get that done. To me, you should have got that on the first letter. And a Ring doorbell. And they had Ring doorbells in 2014. They probably weren't as good as now, but I know they had them. But the idea of moving in filled the Broaddus's with overwhelming anxiety. Well, I mean, yeah. Obviously, but at the same time, see, it's a tough one. Because if it did get next level, you'd never forgive yourself. If something happened to one of your kids and you had the chance to bail out, you'd never forgive yourself, would you? This gets harder the more you go through. Would they get a new letter every week? Derek priced out trained German shepherds and posted a job on a website for military veterans. All you have to do is work out in the backyard every day. But the Broaddus's hadn't bought 657 to feel bunkered in a fortress. I mean, these people, I mean, that's hot. What I would have just, you have to cut your losses. Sell the house cheaper than you bought it. Cut your losses. Why have you got to get fucking soldiers to work in your garden, in your backyard? At the end of the day, it came down to, what are you willing to risk? Maria told me. We weren't going to put our kids in harm's way. Derek had been responding to occasional alarms at the house, sometimes in the middle of the night, bringing a knife with him just in case. I don't know what the laws are in New Jersey, but if I was in the US, I think I'd get a gun. A good one. You know, I'm definitely going to win gun. They were so joyous about their new home, and then within days they were petrified. Bill Woodward, the painter, said, I'm a stranger, and Maria was crying and shaking in my arms. It didn't help that the watchers seemed to be getting more and more unhinged. So it's going to read us another part of what the watcher had wrote. 657 Boulevard is turning on me. It is coming after me. I don't understand why. What spell did you cast on it? It used to be my friend and now it is my enemy. I am in charge of 657 Boulevard. It is not in charge of me. I will fend off its bad things and wait for it to become good again. It will not punish me. I will rise again. I will be patient and wait for this to pass and for you to bring the young blood back to me. 657 Boulevard needs young blood. It needs you. Come back. Let the young blood play again like I once did. Let the young blood sleep in 657 Boulevard. Stop changing it and let it alone. That's so, like, I don't even know if the person that's writing this themselves even has particular direction that they're going in, because it's like, oh, I'm going to take your kids. Like, I know it's not saying that, but like, it's threatening your kids. And then when you decide that, oh, do you know what, we're not going to go to that house. So, oh, please come back. Don't be like that. This is what, like this is what this person's trying to say. Like, please, like, come back. Go on, let the kids play out again. Like, get the fuck out. No way. No way. No. That house, like, I'd be happy. Like, they paid what, $1.3 million for the house. And if the first person that would come up to me and say 500 grand, I'd be like, it's yours. It's yours. I'd rather do that. 500 grand ain't little money. Do you know what I mean? That you are going to be okay with 500 grand. I promise you. Just take it and go live somewhere else. Go live on the beach somewhere. You know, do anything. Get away from there. The Broaddus's had sold their home, so they moved in with Maria's parents while continuing to pay the mortgage and property taxes on 657 Boulevard. I had to do things like shovel the driveway, Derek said. Just picture that little indignity. I'd go at 5 in the morning, then come back and do it again at my in-laws. They told only a handful of friends about the letters, which left others to ask why they weren't moving in. Legal issues, they said, and wonder if they were getting divorced. They fought constantly and started taking medication to fall asleep. I was a depressed wreck, Derek said. Maria decided to see a therapist after a routine doctor's visit and began with the question, "How are you?" caused her to burst into tears. The therapist said she was suffering from post-traumatic stress that wouldn't go away until they got rid of the house. Exactly. Do you know what I mean? Like, you guys need to, there's a point where you have to quickly get it together and be like, there is nothing wrong with our relationship. There is nothing wrong with us. These letters are destroying us. This house was a bad move. Get out. Just sell it cheap. Just sell it cheap. 6 months after the letters arrived, the Broadses decided to sell 657 Boulevard. They initially listed it for more than they paid to reflect the renovation they'd done. Yeah, I know, but come on. I mean, now that this story's out, I mean, it's probably hard to sell now. The only people I think that would pay money for that, I don't know, you do get odd people that just sort of like, oh, guess where I live? I live 657 Boulevard. You might get one of those people, but it's hard to find those stupid people with money. But few worlds are more gossipy than suburban New Jersey real estate, and rumours had already begun to swirl about why their house sat empty. One broker emailed to say her client loved it, but that there are so many unsubstantiated rumours flying around, ranging from sexual predator to stalker, that they needed to know more. The Broadses sent a partial disclosure mentioning the letters to interested buyers and told Coldwell Banker, their realtor, that they intended to show the full letters to anyone whose offer was accepted. Several preliminary bids came in well below the asking price, but the Broadses weren't ready to take such a financial hit and only wanted to share the letters with likely buyers. No one got that far even after they lowered the price. A Coldwell agent who hadn't read the letters told them in an email that they were being unnecessarily forthcoming. My friend got horrible threatening letters about her dog barking and she didn't think to disclose. But the Broadses insisted, I don't know how you lived through what we did and think you could do it to somebody else, Derek said. Well, I mean, but how much do you take? I mean, you got to be honest. I suppose you've got to come forward and just say, look, if anyone's interested in it, turn it into a shop. I don't know, turn it into a little store, knock it down. I don't know what you're allowed to do with it. I don't know what the laws are like there, but I don't know. Like, I don't know, just sell it. Just sell it as cheap. End of. Derek and Maria thought about what they would have done had the previous owners told them about their letter from the Watcher. The Woodses, both retired scientists, told the Broadses that they remembered the letter they received as more strange than threatening, thanking them for taking care of the house. They say they never had any issues. We certainly never felt watched, Andrea told them. They rarely even locked the doors. But the Broadses felt that the name alone was ominous enough to merit a mentioning to a family moving in. And on June 2nd, 2015, a year after buying 657 Boulevard, they filed a legal complaint against the Woodses, arguing that the Woodses should have disclosed the letter, just as they had the fact that water sometimes got in the basement. The Broadses say they hoped to reach a quiet settlement. Their kids still didn't know about the Watcher, and their lawyer assured them that, at most, a small legal newswire might pick up the story. Yeah, well, it got further than that. thanks to YouTube. I mean, this story's been read out a number of times by big channels. And, I mean, if you're selling your house and then you get a letter of someone thanking you for taking care of the house, and it's just peculiar, not alarming in any way, just weird, and look weird, thank you for taking care of the house. Some people are weird, and then there's no law against being weird. So, I mean, did they really need to say, oh look, we got this letter last week addressed to us, nothing to do with you? You know, it's addressed to us, thanking us. Like, do you want to see my birthday cards too? It just really is. So we're gonna read this last bit here, and then we're gonna have to move over to part 3. It's probably gonna take 3 parts because there is quite a lot more to read. So I'm gonna read this last part here and leave you with that for now, and then I'll be uploading part 3 on Monday. So here we go. We do some creepy stories, Tamron Hall said on the Today Show a few weeks later. This might be top 10 creepy. A local reporter had found the complaint, which included snippets of the Watcher's menacing threats, and after a belated attempt by the Broaduses to seal it, the story went viral. New trucks camped out at 657 Boulevard, and one local reporter set up a lawn chair to conduct his own watch. The Broaduses got more than 300 media requests, but with advice from a crisis management consultant referred by one of Derek's colleagues, they decided not to speak publicly to spare their kids even more attention. They vacated Westfield and went to a friend's beach house. They didn't find much peace. Maria's grandfather had a heart attack, and the friend they were staying with had a grand mal seizure. Eventually, Derek and Maria sat down with their children to explain the reason they hadn't moved into their home. The kids had plenty of questions. Who is the Watcher? Where does this person live? Why is this person angry with us? To which Derek and Maria had few answers. Can you imagine having that conversation with a 5-year-old, Derek told me. Your town isn't as safe as you think it is, and there's a boogeyman obsessed with you. I mean, fair play, you know, they're being open and honest with their kids, and they're trying to do it in a manner that their kids can comprehend it and understand that, you know, their parents are not going to put them in that line of danger. You know, it's tough on the kids. It's hard. You know, hiding it from them's hard. You kind of feel like you need to hide it from them, and then you feel like you're doing the wrong thing. And I don't think there is any wrong or right answers. I think it's all about how you manage the situation and how you manage, you know, other people in the family. And I don't mean like manage them, I mean like how you can both support, you can all support each other, whether it's mum, dad or the kids. So I'm going to leave you with that thought. And Derek has a powerful point. You know, can you imagine having that conversation? No, I couldn't. And we're going to get back to part 3 on Monday. So guys, thank you very much. You've been in the Sleuth booth.